Every time you told the user to enter a number, you had to write code for the same 3 steps. Print a message, wait for the input, turn the input into an integer. If you put those 3 steps into a method, you can call that method whenever you want the user to enter an integer. Such a method would have to return the user's entered value. So in today's lesson, you'll learn how to create a method that returns a value. Hi, I'm Annette Gotland. I'm the author of the Do-It-Yourself Java Games books. I teach Java programming through creating games. Welcome to the video version of my books. We're currently in the Text Games video series, TG, the first of 4 types of games series. The focus of this series is to cover the fundamentals of Java programming. No previous programming experience is required. You'll learn how, when, and why Java programs are written the way they are. This series has 16 projects. We're currently working on the 8th project, TG8 calculator. In this project, we'll create a simple calculator like this. This is lesson TG8.3, where you'll learn to create a method that returns a value. You've written methods in previous lessons, but you never needed a return value. In these lessons, you'll learn how to write a method that returns a value. Let's start by writing a method to prompt for and return an integer input value. Exercise 1. Create a method to prompt for an integer. Pause the video if you need more time in any of these exercises. If you want to see how I would complete any of the listings, please refer to the completed listings at the end of this video. First, add a method named prompt for int exactly as shown. Int instead of void in front of the method name means it returns an integer. The return statement is how the method returns the integer. The method must first declare an integer and assign it a value before it can return the integer. Next, add code between the declaration of I and the return of I to print prompt, wait for input from the user, convert that input into an integer and put it in I. Then replace the code in the constructor's loop that prompts for, inputs, and sets the value of A with a call to prompt for int exactly as shown. Hint: pass the removed print message as the parameter to prompt for int. Run it. What happened? It should run exactly the same as before. It should ask you to enter 2 numbers, print their sum, and ask if you want to do another one. Now that you have that method, you should be able to use it anytime you want to input an integer. Exercise 2. Use prompt for int for other integer inputs. What would you change to use prompt for int to set B to? Run it. What happened? It should run exactly the same as before. Next, let's create a similar method to prompt for a string. Exercise 3. Create a prompt for string method. Create a method named prompt for string that takes a string parameter named prompt and returns a string. Inside the method, print prompt. Wait for input and assign it to a string. Return that string. Now, in the constructor, replace the code that asks if the user wants to do another calculation with a call to prompt for string. Run it. What happened? It should run exactly the same as before. Key points and more. Methods that return a value. Methods may return either 0 or 1 value. Name a method's return type in the method's declaration. Return a value of that type using a return statement. Use void as the return type if the method returns no value. Such a method should have no return statement. When you write the code for a method that returns a value, first declare a variable the same type as the method's declared return type. Then add a return statement to return that variable. Then add the code between those 2 statements to set the variable to its desired value. Here are the completed listings for all the exercises in this video. This is the end of the third lesson in the calculator project. The calculator should still run exactly the same as it ran before, but your program code looks much better. You cut down the number of lines of code in the constructor by almost half. Back in an earlier lesson, I mentioned that the program won't work if you enter something other than a number. We'll take a look at how to fix that in the next lesson, where we'll discuss try-catch blocks and exceptions.